Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
They couldn't stop us.
They could not stop us, and thank you very much. We had a lot of people looking at our promo, as we call it, and fascinating.
That's what we used to call it in the trade.
Oh yeah, I don't know what it's called now.
Do they still call
Trail?
it a trail?
Anyway,
Yes,
whatever
a trail.
it is.
Yes.
Thank you. A lot of interest in that, and we've had a lot of response from you. Now, in case you've only just tuned in, we are the EDP Agony Aunties, and we've been dragged in, well, we forced our way in, as they very kindly said, to try and answer some of your problems over the weeks. And today we're focusing on relationships. Christine is a proper psychotherapist, well, a psychotherapist,
yes,
as opposed to a proper psychotherapist.
Yes.
I don't know what the difference is.
Got a bit of paper that proves it. Yes.
I have absolutely no qualifications, but I've lived a very long and interesting life.
Lived well, but not wisely.
Oh, thank you.
No, I don't.
Actually,
mean
you
that.
do. No, you probably do. Actually, you're probably right. And just actually on that subject, we had a message on Facebook from one of the ladies following our trail to say that we may be old, but does that mean that we're qualified?
Yes.
To give advice. Now, I mean, I can sort of see your point. And she went on to say that were we married? Did we have children? Did we have grandchildren? So the implication being, as far as I could see, was that unless you have them, you're not necessarily qualified to talk about life. Now, the thing is, of course, it's great to have families and be married. You don't know what our circumstances are. And in fact, there are an awful lot of people who don't have a family for whatever reason, including myself, and I'm not going to go into it. Does that mean that we're not qualified to talk about anything?
Well, also, people have very strong reasons, and sometimes reasons that they would prefer not to be the case, you know, why they're not mothers. So I think, I mean, I sort of take the point that you need to have lived, really, to be offering advice, and, well, and some qualifications help as well. But yes, I think that to assume that somebody couldn't possibly know about life, like in your case, say, you know, that I wouldn't subscribe to that view, not at all.
Because
actually.
I do have, there are children around. I mean, I've got nephews and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so I mean, I think you have to be a bit careful with that one, because there are an awful lot of women, probably of my sort of age and now, who for some reason or other can't have children or don't want children. I don't think that sort of disqualifies you from anything. But anyway, there you are. That is my view on that one.
Okay.
So shall we get on with
Let's get on.
one of these first? Now, Christine. It
Yes.
says, "Dear Christine and Helen," I come second there, but never mind. I think my husband is having an affair. He's just been away for the weekend to Scotland, which he said was because he needed to get away, but I just don't buy it. Our children are grown up, so it's just the two of us, and we seem to get along perfectly well. Civil anyway, but it's not really a marriage. He doesn't seem interested in me or anything really, except his phone, which he's on almost all the time. I've even tried looking at it when he leaves it lying around, but he has a fingerprint thing on it. So I can't find out that way. Is there any hope for us? Mary, she's calling herself there. Obviously, all of this, by the way, we're not giving your real name. No. So what do you think about that then?
Well, this is a very difficult one, and I think often marriages or long-term relationships go through very dicey periods when the kids leave home, and it's just you, and quite often people have to kind of reframe how they see their marriage. Now, your husband went to Scotland to sort of needed time alone, so maybe he's got things on his mind, needed to think. On the other hand, I do remember a friend of mine who had a bloke who said he was going off to the Bahamas for Christmas to find himself, and then she later found out that he'd taken somebody along with him, was busy finding out all about her. So you know, so
Shouldn't
you
laugh,
know,
but I mean, that's quite
but
funny.
so I don't mean to be flippant, but you know, it may not be true that he went alone. I've no way of knowing. But I think the thing is that there are always telltale signs when somebody has an affair. And they are really that something changes. Now, it could be that like Mary is saying, he's on the phone all the time. Was that what he always used to be like? Probably not. It could be that men very often start going to the gym a lot. They take more showers and baths if they're having an affair. They sometimes they're much nicer to you. Sometimes you start having much better sex, just the two of you. And
sounds like a good idea then.
Well, I mean, and I mean, it's not just men that stray in this way. So, you know, often I've had men in the consulting room saying, "I'm sure my wife is having an affair because she's lost weight, she's so full of life and everything, and I just think something different is happening." So, really, I mean, it comes back to the age-old thing. Do you want to know? Is it worth forcing the issue and discussing it? Or do you think, we're all right as we are, you know, divorce would be very unsettling for us and the whole family. Should I just bite my tongue for a little while and think, well, let's just see what happens? It's difficult because also you don't want to feel as if you are being lied to, and you don't want to feel as if you're a kind of non-person in this. So there's no easy answer.
It is a very tricky one, because also I think that these days phones and mobile phones must have made a huge difference to perhaps having an affair or not having an affair. I mean, years ago, before you had a mobile phone, you'd have to sort of drive somewhere and stop off on a
phone box if you could
go to a phone
one.
box if you could find one that worked, of course. So has it made it easier, do you think, now with the onset of?
Well,
I mean, I don't know about this fingerprint.
I have no idea what that means because I'm an old person. But the thing is, though, that people do get things like a pay-as-you-go phone, so it's not their normal number. So and have a sort of secret phone for clandestine arrangements. And yes, I do think it's easier. On the other hand, you could say with all the social media about and cameras everywhere and everybody taking selfies, it's perhaps harder to keep things a secret than it used to be, because you could find that just inadvertently somebody lets your secret out, you know,
like a picture in the Bahamas.
Well, exactly. So I mean, I feel very sorry for Mary, but what is not mentioned in this is the word love, which I find quite disturbing.
Well, yeah, she says it's civil, but not really a marriage.
No,
but it doesn't say how long she's been married. Actually,
I should think a long time if they've got grown-up children.
Yes, oh yes.
And the other thing is, you know, do you still love him, or is it just a habit? Is it something that you need to be thinking about? You know, where do I go in all of this? Because quite honestly, even if he's not having an affair, but doesn't seem to be very interested in you, and you're civil with him, but it doesn't sound as if you're having you know, much of an intimate life either. Do you want to settle for that now? Say you're 50. Do you want to settle for that? The other thing is, you know, increasingly in our sort of generation, you find that people are having to look after a partner because a partner gets ill. And when it comes to a real serious illness in the family and you're looking after somebody, trust me, it makes it very, very, very much easier if you totally love that person.
So are you saying
if you don't, you know, it's a chore, and you know, you need to think about, would I want to nurse this person, or should I be getting out now?
On the other hand, of course, they've been together for, one assumes, a very long time.
Yeah.
I think a marriage is going to change through that time. I would say, you know, whoever you are, that sort of first flush of you know, loving somebody, and I mean, should she suddenly sort of get out the underwear and sort of lie on the bed when he comes home and sort of try and tempt him that way? Or,
well, I actually think those things feel very artificial, and most people don't feel confident or happy to do them. And I think the other thing about that is that very often when it gets to that stage, of actually thinking, should I do that? It's a bit late. And but I mean, you could try and talk to him and say things like, do you think that this spark has gone out of our marriage? Is there anything we can do about this? Often going away on a nice trip somewhere will seal your fate one way or another, because you'll either get on brilliantly and it'll be marvellous, or you'll find you've got nothing to talk about and it won't be. But I also am concerned about your own sort of self-esteem here, because it seems to me that if he sort of disappears off to Scotland, well, maybe you want to do some things for you. Maybe you want to actually appear a bit more independent, so that he might go, oh, she's gone off now, you know, well, so there's more to her than I knew. Don't let yourself be a doormat.
And I personally don't think you should ask somebody, because he might be having an affair. It depends on your view about that. Sometimes you can have an affair and then get over it, and life carries on. If you know the cat's out of the bag, things are going to change. You know, so I would say keep stum about it. I mean, you might find actually that he feels so bad about it that he tells her, in which case you're back to square one. So anyway, that wasn't much help, was it? But it was a good point.
I think we've risen, we've raised a lot of questions, and these are the sort of questions I think you need to be asking yourself, Mary. Actually,
right now, this one I think is it sort of goes along with that a little bit, really, because I've been married for 20 years, have 3 children, and I don't love my husband anymore. He's so wrapped up in his work and has always come first, even though I work as well. I do all the housework. No, men do that now, don't they? Yeah, right. As well as a full-time job and all the childcare. Our families don't live locally, so everything falls on me, yet he expects certain standards to be observed and gets annoyed when I haven't the urge to cook for him. Well, I know what I'd say.
It does sound like
just when he comes home, don't cook for him.
No.
I mean, at weekends he goes out and watches football. I'm at my wit's end. Sometimes, I thought it said Scotland. It doesn't. Sometimes I feel like walking out and leaving him and going to Scotland. It doesn't say that actually.
No, but you could do that.
You could though, and go and meet this other. Oh no, but don't do that. But I'm sorry to. I know they say now, and this is sorry men out there, that they do their fair share of the clearing up, the washing up. I find it still. And my partner won't be watching this, so we're all right. Well, if you are, I'm sorry. You'll do the washing up, but you tell me you do the washing up.
Yes, I've done your washing up.
I put the vacuum over. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
You know, like, oh, thank you ever such a lot. You've done that for me.
Yes.
For me.
Yes.
So I can sort of see here.
Yes.
That, I mean, the only thing is that she could say, I'm not doing any of that.
Sally, you need to actually, get some help here. Because this is ridiculous that you're the drudge. I mean, it's possible that your husband thinks, through working every hour that God made, that he's providing for you, and that therefore your part of the bargain is that you run a tight ship. You know, you look after the kids. You always remember when their dental appointments are, etc., etc., etc. But it sounds like you want a lot more from this than that. You feel you're being taken for granted. You feel that you've got to get his dinner on the table when he wants it. I mean, with the best one in the world, I think your husband is a bit of a dinosaur, because really, why doesn't he cook for you sometimes? You say you work as well. Yeah. I think you need to... Maybe one of the things with men is actually that I've learned over the years is that you need to be specific in what you ask them to do. So it's no good saying,
no.
I want more help in the house. And they'll go, well, what should I do? If you go, right, what I'd like is when you come in from the office, I'd like you to come and give me a kiss and ask me how my day's gone. Point 1. They'll go, oh, I can do that. But it's just they wouldn't think of it. So you need to do that. You need to actually maybe do a spreadsheet if that's something your partner would understand. And all the things that you do.
Come in, give me a kiss.
Well, but
hang up your coat.
Maybe all the things that you do that he doesn't do, and just say, this is what I do. Now, I want some help here. I mean, also, what age are the children? Why aren't they helping?
Well, I don't know. She doesn't say how old, but then, they've been married for 20 years. One assumes
so they're probably in their teens and things.
Now, do you think as well, to a certain extent, that it's the fact that she does everything is her fault? Because, you see, we can all say that, can't we? But sometimes I'll do something, I think, it's much easier if I do it.
Well, that is the thing.
And also, if I have to ask somebody to do something... My view is they should just see it and do it.
Well,
if there's a whole pile of washing or something, why is it not done? And you have to say, oh, could you do the washing? I mean, it does seem, and I'm sorry, gentlemen, because I'm sure there are women like this as well, but it does seem that why should we have to point it out?
Well, I think
perhaps she prefers to do it.
Well, you see, I do think that a lot of us do make that rod for our own back because it is actually easier to do it than grumble about it. And then it becomes... force of habit. But I mean, another thing that occurs to me is you don't mention money and how much there is, but if he's got a very good job and he's very obsessed with it and you work, then I mean, he might very well think that it's not a bad idea for you both to have a bit more time together sometimes, and he might very well agree with you. he could pay to have a cleaner in.
Well, I think that's a very good idea, because I had this over ironing, which I hate doing.
No, right.
And I ended up sort of ironing lots of shirts and cleaning, and I just said, I'm really fed up with doing this, we need to get somebody in.
Yes.
And actually that did solve that problem, because he didn't want to do it, I didn't want to do it, we were both working, so we got somebody in.
Well, and that's
the
thing.
Pay for it,
but the thing is, you have to ask yourself, what are we working for? If you're working flat out, but you don't actually have time to enjoy it together and everything, then the obvious answer is, if you've got some spare cash, if you have, then get somebody in to help you, because then you could both be, much more relaxed about the house, maybe even go out on a Saturday or something. Oh, except he's at the football. But, have you ever thought about going to the football? I don't know.
Oh, please.
No.
Oh, I only once went to a football match when I fancied this bloke.
Yes.
And I took a book with me, because I just thought, I cannot.
That's not the attitude.
Well, no, the bloke was very nice, but I just thought, I cannot sit here with football. I just can't. I'm sorry. I know.
Well, you see, now my
you
story.
like football, don't you?
No, I don't. But my story is that when I got together with my husband, I was actually going to open a fete for Anglia somewhere, Northampton or somewhere. It couldn't be a whole day's travel and do it and come back. And, and I said to him, "Oh, darling, would you like to come with me?" And he said, "It's the Five Nations," as it was then, the rugby championship. And I said, "What?" And anyway, he had to explain to me what rugby was. And anyway, it was clear that he really loved this.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I mean, I did still have to go and open the fete, by the way. But I did actually start looking at rugby with him. And I developed a passion for it, and I think in the end I probably liked it even better than he did. So
Really?
Don't knock it till you've tried it.
You're much nicer than me.
No, because I just enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't do that. But you are much nicer.
Well, I'm
this is
pleased
obvious.
you.
Yeah.
At
last,
appreciate
I've only
this.
known you for 40 plus years, and you're much nicer than me. But she does say here, should she leave him to it? Oh, sometimes wait a minute. Sometimes I feel like walking out. And
Yeah,
leaving.
no, well, that's a horrid feeling, because if you actually feel really, really, really underappreciated, then that is not good. And actually, you're going to have to, I think, bite the bullet with this. Do a whole list for him of everything that you do. Say, you treat me like a servant. This is not a marriage. We need to sit down and talk about it. I mean, maybe would he go with you to relate, to discuss this? Sometimes discussing it in front of an impartial person, that can help. Or you just have to think, shake him up a bit and just say, I'm not a servant, I'm a wife, and I would like to be treated like one. And maybe he doesn't even know how aggrieved you feel.
I suspect that's the case.
Yeah.
I think he probably doesn't.
He might
just
be lost
assumes,
without you.
He probably thinks that's what you want to do as well, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Anyway, lovely. Well, now this one, I think, this is a really tricky one. Dear Aunties, I'm a man of 26 and still a virgin. I cannot admit this to anyone. It feels so shameful. I have masses of friends and a good social life, but don't seem to be good at romance. I'm shy, I suppose. Now, one of the women in my group of mates has shown some interest in me and wants to have a drink. I'm flattered. But if things go further, should I tell her I have never had sex? Now, how rare is that of a man of 26?
That's, honestly, believe me, that is not as rare as you think. Ditto with women. I've certainly, in my consulting room, when I used to have my London practice, I can tell you that very presentable, intelligent people earning a very good living, you would be amazed at how many somehow had just not quite ever met the person that they wanted to have first sex with, and somehow the years have gone on and they never have, and nobody else knows, and then they do feel some sense of shame because they think everybody's at it except me. And I'm not saying it's the majority of the population, of course I'm not, but I am saying that it's a sizable minority. So there is no shame in it. I mean, in a way, there might be more shame if you had been somebody that had actually had sex with everything that moved, and then and had all sorts of STIs and really felt that, why did I do all that? I kind of devalued myself and devalued what love and intimacy should be. So there would be more sense of shame with that, I would have thought. Yes. So, I mean, I think what you have to just think is, here you're clearly personable, You obviously smell right, you look right, you've got good friends, you're not a loner, you're not somebody that doesn't know how to interact with people. But for some reason this hasn't happened. So she's interested in you. Maybe, actually, other people have been interested in you,
Just
and
haven't
you've
noticed.
just not got the signals.
That's a good
Some of
point.
us don't have the antennae,
Yes.
you know.
And is it worse for a man to say that he's a virgin, do you think, than a woman?
I'm not sure in this day and age it actually is, but I think there is that point that men do very often identify themselves by their sexual activity and the fact that they, you know, that they're potent and all of that. So from that point of view, yes, I can see that. I think there may be more of a sense of, you know, disappointment certainly, but also, you know, what's wrong with me? But so your question really is, should you say to her, I've never had sex before, if it gets to that point? Now, I think you should offer as much here or as little as you want. I don't think that there's any right or wrong in this situation, really. Do you?
No, I mean, it's funny, really, because I went out with somebody for a very long time, and I went out with him for 3 years, and there was no sexual contact at all.
No.
And quite honestly, I just thought he was really nice.
Respected you, dear.
I did.
Yes.
And people were saying to me, "No, I think he's probably gay." And I said, "No, he's not. He's really nice and he's lovely."
But you can be gay and nice.
Well, yes, of course you can. No, sorry, I know. Did that make it sound like I didn't mean that?
I just picked on that up
Thank you.
quickly.
So I didn't
because we
mean
don't
you're
want
not.
everybody
Actually,
saying...
I have a lot of lovely gay friends. No,
You
what I meant
certainly
was
do, yeah.
he didn't say he was gay.
No.
He pretended. Well, it seemed to me that he wanted a relationship with me, and people was, and it just seems amazing that for 3 years you don't actually have a sexual relationship with somebody.
Because
Anyway,
it was a long time ago.
well, it was a very long time ago. Yes, and. Yeah, nothing to do with anybody I know now.
No,
but
quickly say that. Yeah.
But the thing was, we then went on holiday, and I thought, well, this is your luck is in here, and because we were suddenly left on our own, he was terrified. I could see the sort of terror, and he went off. And anyway, I then thought I saw him with a chap actually outside a coffee bar. Anyway, so but the thing was, the reason I mentioned this actually is because I quite liked that fact, and so I could sort of see. I mean, why would it be a huge problem?
Well, that's the point. Now, actually...
That's a roundabout way of saying that. It was only about 3 hours later I finished that question.
But one of the things I would say is... a lot of women like shy men. They really, really, really like shy men because they are a refreshing change from men that are, you know, full of themselves and actually might be very overconfident and not necessarily deliver the goods. So women like shy men. They like men who listen to them. I mean, the number of women that I've had in my consulting room who are getting divorced because they say, he never listened to me, ever. You know, when I'd got kids at home and he'd come in, he never listened to me. And that actually can turn a woman off more than any other thing that a man can do. So listen and be shy, that's okay. And tell her what you like. Now, my inclination would be to say something, if it gets to the point where it's obvious that she's expressing great interest in you physically, is to say, you know, make a joke that you'll have to be a bit gentle with me because I really haven't had much experience, you know, I'm a shy boy and haven't done this for a while. Something like that. You don't have to actually go, I've never ever done this. I mean, not unless you want to. It's your choice, I think. Really.
I'm 26. I mean, you make it sound as if that's really old.
Oh, yeah, no, 20. Yeah,
I wouldn't say that's particularly old, is
no,
it?
it isn't, but it feels old to you because I bet all your friends, you think that they're all at it like rabbits. I expect that's what you think.
Well, I think I can remember at school, well, later on, sort of college really, not so much school, and girls started talking about these things. Yeah. And I think a lot of it was just all talk, quite frankly. Yeah. I mean, do you think also that once again, you know, social media and all the things we have now, which of course we didn't have, makes it more difficult for somebody because they see all this going on, they hear it all going on. I think it's in magazines, it's sort of everywhere.
I think that is true. I think another thing that's true is that just generally people that perhaps feel a bit lonely or don't feel very good at making friends, and I know that's not you because you're good at making friends, but there'll be people watching this who aren't very good at making friends. And then I think certainly social media can compound your feelings of inadequacy, because people, well, there are people that post things about, I'm so miserable today, you know, I haven't seen anybody, but you know, most of us really avoid that like the plague, don't we? I mean, so mostly people are posting things, you know, hey, I'm having a great time, you know, look at me in this bar having the most wonderful time.
Yes, quite.
But it's only a very small part of their lives, actually. So I think that when you're thinking, oh, everybody has masses of friends, everybody's more popular than me, you just have to take that with a pinch of salt. I know it's difficult there.
Would it help as well? You were saying that this is not an unusual situation at all, that he talked to other people in a similar situation, as like him. Maybe there are groups or somewhere where he could go.
I mean, I don't personally know of a support group for I Am Still a Virgin, but I mean,
Be careful when you type that one in.
Yeah, but I mean, stranger things have happened, and I do know, I mean, I haven't been in touch with these people for a very long time, but I do remember there was a quite an expensive place in Chelsea where they actually catered for men and women who'd never had any sexual experience, but that they had sort of surrogate partners there, and they used to recruit people. So really, with the internet, I mean, you have to be careful what you sign up to on the internet, as we know. But you might be amazed that maybe there is some Facebook group out there that, you know, for people that have never had sex. Maybe there are organisations where, you know, if you part with a certain amount of money, you could go and actually have sex with somebody that was experienced and they would help you. I'm not advocating that, though, in your case, because I think you've got a woman who's interested in you. So, you know, go with it. You're already friends. So you haven't even got to have that stilted conversation either online or at a wine bar where you can't even hear each other over the music. You know, you've got
That's another topic.
I know.
Yes.
So just go with this. Take it gently. Listen to her. And you know, does it matter if she makes the first move? I would say in 2018, probably not.
No, absolutely. Well, very good advice there. Now, this one has come in. It says, hi, ladies. Thank you. My best friend has told me she has cheated on her husband with someone at work. They did very rude things after the Christmas party.
Not rude things.
I want to know what they are, but anyway, no.
Don't, she'll probably tell you. No.
Well, it's a non, so anyway.
Oh, right.
I feel awful that she is lying to him and feel terrible to carry this huge burden of being, now this is a tricky one, huge burden of being the only person she has told.
Yeah.
What should I do?
Well, I would say, are you totally sure you're the only person she's told? Because quite often people are full of this, you know, and she might have told somebody else. But I mean, if you know the husband, and you presumably do because she's your best friend, I think that puts an intolerable burden on you. You're going to be meeting him and you're knowing that she has cheated on him and may even cheat on him again. And I think that's a horrid situation to be in. And what should you do? Now, some people I know have told the husband in that case, and I don't personally think that's the most brilliant idea, because it's one of those things you can't take it back. You can't go, oh, only joking afterwards. You can't take it back. And you might ruin their marriage and you might ruin his life. I mean, you know, suppose he goes into a steep decline of depression and you feel very bad about it. But if it is too much of a burden, you may have to say to your best friend, and much depends on how much you want to keep her as a best friend, if you're going to carry on with this, I mean, maybe she thinks, well, it was a Christmas party, that was over and done with, I don't know. But if you're going to carry on with this, you have to tell your husband, otherwise somebody else is going to.
That was it. You see, I instantly thought, because it says a Christmas party. Well, we know, not that I go to Christmas parties anymore, but I mean,
avoid them like the plague.
Well, the thing is, things get heated, don't they? People have too much to drink. You know, it could just be that there was just this hiccup, or maybe that's perhaps a silly word to use, but you know, just
an
something
incident
happened.
With the photo.
An incident,
probably.
Do you think?
Yes, and I think that's what usually.
But the thing
happens.
is, if they said they did very rude things, you're quite right. I mean, there's probably quite a few people who have seen that. One assumes, but especially if it was over the photocopier. Yes. But it seems to me that it's best to just keep quiet on these things. Could she not just talk to her friend and say, look, you've told me about this. This is awful for me.
Yes. Let her know it's awful for you.
What do you expect me to do? Now that I know, as you say, the cat's out of the bag. You've made this intolerable intolerable, I can't even say it. You know what I mean?
Yes,
try that word. A difficult situation for me. But I personally think that in all these instances, if you say to the other partner or say to anyone, things are going to change, aren't they? You know, it's never going to be the same again. Even if they say, "Oh, it's just a flirtation."
I know. Well, you know, I think with these work-based things that are laced liberally with alcohol, and I think there's a bit less of it nowadays, frankly, because most firms
they don't have a Christmas party.
Christmas party, you have to bring your own booze, all of that. And
I think
when
we used to have sorry, this was Anglia interrupting you. We used to have these parties, and they had a fountain with wine coming out of it.
Madness.
I mean, all those... Well, this was in the days when...
There was money.
When there was money.
Yes, no.
And this fountain just had...
I know.
In fact, I can remember, because I never used to drink very much then. No, I still don't, actually. But because I was really tiny as well, so immediately I had a couple of glasses and I was away with... But I can remember having terrible arguments with people. I didn't do rude things.
No.
But I did have terrible
I don't want to disabuse you of that notion. You might not remember some of the things you did.
Was I rude then?
You're always rude, aren't you?
Only I'd like to know, actually. Tell me afterwards. I forgot about that.
But anyway, to come back, yes, I mean, there are definitely people. It's like when people go away on conferences and things like that, you know, where they have some sort of liaison with a work colleague. Afterwards, they feel desperate about it. They think, what was I thinking of? You know, that to do that to my husband or wife at home, this is shocking. I must never do it again. I mean, there've been endless TV dramas about this, haven't there? And you regret it, and it never happens again, and you have to make up your own mind. Would I benefit by telling my own husband or my own wife that I did this or not? But if you're unburdening a friend, like, you know, our anon viewer has said, she's been told these things. Now, it's very hard for you because you sort of think, well, why did she... It's almost like I feel as if your friend has boasted about this to you, which worries me because that doesn't sound like somebody who's contrite and is going, I was mad and I must never do this again. It sounds like somebody going, oh, and then we did this and then we did that. So that worries me. And it also worries me that our viewer knows the husband, most likely, and is then feeling that she's sort of almost party to something that he doesn't know and she feels bad about it. So I think she maybe has to say to her friend, well, what are you going to do about this? Are you going to tell him, or are you going to promise that you never ever do anything like this again? You know, where are you with it?
Or if you do, don't tell me.
Or don't tell me.
Because it does put a burden, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a tricky when somebody says, you know, oh, can I tell you something?
I know.
And please don't tell anybody anything.
No.
Don't tell anybody else.
No.
And then it's really hard, isn't it? I mean,
well, she's only now told about 5,000 other people, except we don't know.
Well, we don't know who she is. No. But anyway, so my advice, such as it is, would don't take it any further. Just talk to her and keep the thing quiet. But right, we've got one here now. Dear Aunties, I'm a woman of 35, divorced, with 2 girls of 8 and 6. Recently, I met a guy who I like, but he seems to be very keen to become a kind of father figure to my girls. He loves spending time with them, and I hear them all giggling together. Then yesterday I saw him tickling one of them. I've only been dating him for a fortnight. I feel a little bit worried about him, but am I just nervous about being in a relationship again? Now, this is a very tricky one, isn't it?
It's
a very tricky one.
And I really feel for this particular woman because, I mean, maybe you've been on your own a while. Maybe you felt, oh, life has passed me by. No, maybe you had a messy divorce. Maybe you feel nobody will ever love you again. You know, all of those things. And you know, we've all been there. And that kind of sense of rejection and a marriage has gone wrong and everybody else seems to be a family and I'm not, is a really, really horrible, awful feeling. Awful. And then you meet somebody who seems lovely and you immediately start thinking that you might, you know, have a future with this person. But I have to say that I really have loud bells warning me in my ears, and I think you do, because I don't think you would have written if you didn't have that sense that, is this quite right? I mean, why is he so keen to see your children? You've only been dating a fortnight. You know why? I mean, the first thing I would say to you is, if you want to carry on dating him, I think you should say something along the lines of, I really would like to get to know you better myself before I involve my kids, because, you know, if we end up by being just a very casual and short-term relationship, I don't want my kids to have a sort of succession of uncles coming through the house. Yeah. I really don't. So if you started coming to the house and that's all part of it, I think one of the things you should do is say, I only want to see you outside of the house. I mean, I know it's difficult for you, you've probably got to get a babysitter and all of those things, but just make it plain. For now, the house is a no-go area. You don't want him to carry on seeing your kids at the moment until and unless he becomes a fixture. And I think you can say that without any, you know, sense that you are implying that he's a paedophile or anything. Yes.
I mean, this is the thing nowadays, isn't it? That, and in many respects, I mean, I'm not talking about this situation, it must be very, very difficult for some people who are quite tactile people, who are friendly people. There's absolutely nothing going on.
No.
However, we live in an era now where you have to be so careful.
Well, you do.
But you think with this, and as you say, the fact that she's written about it, is it though because life, we have to be so careful now? I mean, you know, I don't honestly remember a lot of this as a kid, where, you know, well, I mean, maybe it was just brushed under the carpet.
Well, the fact
so there's possibly
that if you've been on the sort of number of programmes I've been on, or you've, you know, had letters as an agony aunt over the decades as I have, and you've known psychologists who work in this particular area, you know that this did always go on. This really, really did always go on, and that's why there are so many women and men of a certain age who, you know, carry a burden of having been sexually abused as children. Now, I'm not saying this man is sexually abusing or even has that in his mind, your children. What I am, and it may be that he's the sort of person that thought, I always want to be a dad, and hey, now there are, you know, these two lovely kids with this woman that I fancy like mad. And that's fine, but if he is entirely innocent in his desires here, he will fully understand you saying, I don't want you to get to know my kids any better at the moment until we see where we're going. If he disappears in a puff of smoke when you do that, you will know that actually, and I'm sorry to say this, you've been targeted. Because actually, that does happen. People do target women, sometimes men, lone fathers, who've got children of either gender, if they have an unnatural interest in those children. So I'm sorry to say that, but I just think, I'm not saying that this man has, I'm really not saying that, but what I'm saying is I think you need to put a bit of distance between the children and you and him, and see where this relationship goes. And if he still seems so keen, that's one thing. But if he sort of goes, well, what are you suggesting, or doesn't want to do that, I think you have to think very carefully about it.
I think that's very interesting, because you think also that he will be aware of what life is like now as well. He should be aware. Well, he should be aware if you know, if it's something that people will bring up nowadays. I mean, I know men now who do, you know, they're walking along the road, they cross the road if they're walking behind you because they might be aware that they might be disturbed. There's nothing, of course, there's nothing going on there, but I think we all have to be very aware. I think we all are. I
mean, it's a shame, and
it is a shame.
More than a shame, that we really all have to be so careful now in what we do. But we do have to be so careful, and you know, unfortunately, some women and some men on their own, you know, lone parents are targeted by people who do have ulterior motives, and that's all I'm saying. So I'm just saying, if you're uncomfortable, there's possibly a reason that you're uncomfortable.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're sort of drawing to an end here, Christine, but I had a very funny email, actually. This was a funny one from a friend of mine who was just talking. He said he's got too many problems to talk about. And he said, especially...
You have to get in at the beginning of the hour.
Well, exactly. Yeah. But especially, is it okay? I understand that it can only be talked about on a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's the only day.
Which is the only day, I'm afraid. Which actually was very funny. But no, we are hoping to be here. Of course, it doesn't have to be a Tuesday. We happen to be here on on Tuesday today. But there are ways that you can get in touch with us on various...
Are you going to tell them? Because I haven't...
No, I don't know, actually. I was hoping you were. Well, there's email. You can email Helen, I think it's Helen Dot, I'm just going to... Helen Dot, yes, we have somebody in the room telling, because she knows. Helen.McDermott at archant.co.uk.
Oh, so I think I've got one of those.
You have. Not Helen, but Christine.
No, Christine.
And Christine.Webber
at archant.co.uk.
Yeah. And we'd like to hear from you. It doesn't have to be relationship problems, all sorts of things, because as you can tell, Christine absolutely knows what she's talking about. A lot of sense, actually.
Oh.
I'm surprised.
Yes, you didn't know this side of me,
did you? I thought you'd be a bit of an
you?
idiot, really.
Yeah.
I knew, because you've done how many, years and years of actually training in this and seeing people, of course.
Yeah, seeing people. And also, even before I trained, really, I was an agony aunt, and you do begin to get a sort of sense of the... But, I mean, that's really why I trained, because I was becoming an agony aunt on various programmes and newspapers, and I thought, well, really, to do this properly, I need to know more about it. So...
Are there some things now that are very different than they would have been years ago? Some problems, or basically are our problems more or less the same, just dressed up differently?
I actually think that not everybody, but what most people want in life is to have somebody to go home to, where you put the key in the lock, and if they're going to be there, you think, oh, I'm really glad to be home. I've got this person, I belong to this person, he or she belongs to me. That hasn't really changed. That is still what most people want. They might say, I don't want it yet, and I don't want to be a mother yet, or I don't want to be a father yet, or I actually like my own space. So, there are all those things. But when it comes down to it, certainly I would say in the consulting room, what drives most people to pick up the phone or send an email to a therapist to say, I think I need to come and see you? It's usually a relationship is going wrong. I've never had a relationship. I'm hopeless at relationships. I haven't got over the last relationship. Whatever they come with, it might be like, I don't have enough self-esteem or something like that. But usually, tucked away in there, that word relationship will come up. It's what makes most of us tick, actually, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I don't think that has changed.
And there is help out there. I've certainly found myself, not necessarily over relationships, but with depression, those sorts of things, that actually talking to somebody really does make a difference. So hopefully we might be able to help just a little bit along the way. Well, certainly Christine will. We would love to hear from you. If you have been watching today, thank you very much indeed. And
because we would feel idiots sitting here with nobody.
Mind you, we're very good at just talking to ourselves. We've done that over the years.
We have.
Always great as ever, Christine.
Thank you.
Lovely
to be back in the old routine with you.
No, it is.
I know.
Now go and get us a cup of tea.
I know. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.